Hi. The symbolism in Jordan Peele's Us was laid on super heavy. Straight from the first viewing, there were things I picked up on. Even if I didn't know what they meant, I knew they were significant. And I didn't want to watch any videos explaining the movie to me, or read any articles until I at least attempted to figure out the movie for myself. As a disclaimer, this is not the only way to interpret the story, just an idea I'm trying to explore. In the movie, each human has a tethered twin, or a shadow, that dwells beneath the earth. Whatever the person above ground does affects the person below. If the person above eats a warm meal, the person below eats cold, raw rabbit. If the person above gets married, the person below is forcibly matched with a stranger for life. Everything the person does above happens to the person below, only in a messed up, negative way. For ages, this is the way things have worked until one shadow gets the opportunity to trade places with their real-world tether. This tether was known as Adelaide, played flawlessly by my queen, Lupita Nyong'o. At a young age, she stumbled upon an entrance to the underworld, and her shadow took advantage of the situation by trapping Adelaide underground and pretending to be her up above. Adelaide eventually began to plan an uprising, a day of rebellion in which all shadows would come up above and wreak havoc on the real world, reclaiming their full souls. She uses the model of a classic American protest from the 80s, Hand Across America, a program to end world hunger. So Cameron, what's your theory? Jordan Peele is telling a story about poverty. He's giving a chilling allegory about America's financial caste system. Allow me to explain. References to duality and mirror images are present throughout the movie. The number 11 shows up multiple times, a symmetrical number. In fact, it's often seen in pairs. 11-11 on alarm clocks, the baseball game on the TV having a score of 11 versus 11. The bunnies in the opening credits are posed in rows of 11, and most obviously, the homeless man holding a Jeremiah 11:11 sign in multiple scenes of the movie. More dualities are seen when the frisbee at the beach lands perfectly on a polka-dotted towel. The tools shadows use to kill people are pairs of scissors. They look really cool and creepy, but they're also perfectly symmetrical. There are even entire monologues that Lupita's character has that are only shots of her reflection. A less specific examination of duality in the film is when the family takes a trip to the beach. It's a beautiful scene. The ripples of the sand are almost hypnotizing, and the collection of colors and sunshine feels so fun and carefree. But once Jason wanders off and Adelaide loses sight of him, the beach changes. With only a change in music, sound, and focus, the beach becomes a dark and sinister place. Seagulls sound ravenous, children's laughter became ear-splitting, and negative energy overcame the environment. It's a very smart transition that points to one of the main selling points of the movie. Everything is not what it seems. The places, things, and people we trust can be changed so quickly and so thoroughly. Even the actions we first see as innocent and harmless can be proven villainous when a mirror is held up against them. If you take a closer look at certain things in life, isn't everything a little scary? One of the moments in the movie that is the most indicative of my theory is when Adelaide asks, "Who are you?" and Red replies with a laugh, "We are Americans." The way she says it almost sounds sarcastic. Jordan Peele has seen the vast majority of Americans who are at a disadvantage, whether they're illegal immigrants, the homeless, or even just people living in slums and urban cities. This vast group of people is tucked under the general image of what Americans look like. We see the glam, the mansions, the AirPods, the celebrities. We worship vloggers and Instagram posts and strive to appear put together. We go out of our way not to acknowledge people who are less fortunate than we are. People who are hungry, people who can't afford crazy medical bills, people who can't pay their rent on time, people who have to drop out of high school to get another source of income for their families, and hard-working individuals who are no less deserving of a decent life than anyone else. But they often get labeled as ghetto, lazy, and uncivilized. They sometimes speak different languages than us and are easily depicted as hostile and violent in the news and media, much like the so-called monsters in Us. They live beneath the wealthier living Americans. They share the same planet yet are looked over, forgotten. Everything they do is completely dependent on the acts of those on top, almost like a financial food chain. It sounds like a conspiracy, but when you think about all the government officials who accept unchecked amounts of money for their campaigns, in colleges that accept bribery for school admission, it doesn't seem very far-fetched. The monsters are seen as terrifying to the people above because they appear to be savages. They're foreign, they're angry, and they're a threat to the people on top's cushy lifestyle. Having Adelaide and Red switch places only furthers this idea. After seeing the film while perceiving Red as the bad guy, the whole movie changed when learning about the switch, because suddenly I realized that this movie really has no bad guy. Anyone in Red's shoes would have done the same thing, reclaimed their license over their life. Red created a family, picked up dancing, and lived happily ever after. However, the real Adelaide got to see the underworld up close and personal. When the opportunity came to take back what's hers, wouldn't you? So now we have two human beings, two people who are completely the same. One has been disadvantaged, and one has had an abundance of privilege. Neither of them are wrong or inherently evil, minus the slitting of people's throats with a pair of shears. They're both just fighting to protect their happiness. So who gets to live their dreams? Who gets to build their own life, and who is systematically forced to watch from the sidelines? In this movie, the people on top of the world have the power. It doesn't matter who the real Adelaide is, because if you're not on top, your decisions don't matter. In real life, the top 20% of Americans own 85% of America's wealth. It is estimated that ending hunger in America would take $30 billion a year. Jeff Bezos' net worth is $131.4 billion. Bill Gates' net worth, $96.4 billion. Mark Zuckerberg's net worth, $62.1 billion. I can't point fingers at these guys and say, hey, end world hunger, but when we think about the other hundreds and thousands of Americans that have even a fraction of the money these guys have. I think that's partially what Jordan Peele is getting at. There's a whole class of Americans who are walked all over on. We don't hear them because we choose to ignore them. We pretend to help and care, but when it comes down to it, we like being on top. Many people think us is a warning. You are your own worst enemy, but I think it runs much deeper than that. Not you are your own worst enemy, but you are the enemy. You are the oppressor. A scene that comes to mind in particular is the final battle underground. It's an incredibly choreographed scene, and the score is just fascinating. This was the best scene in the movie, hands down, and you can fight me on that. The whole scene, you're rooting for Adelaide to defeat Red and save her family and potentially the nation. However, when you receive the final bits of information and learn about their switch, I don't know about you, but I felt so bad. I felt mean. Like I was literally cheering on the enemy. I was just as maniacal and blood-crazed as the villain. I was the villain. It's very smart what Jordan Peele did. The whole movie we were scared of these strange people. We were literally looking through the bad guy's eyes. We just didn't know it until we saw the full picture. We were waiting for the time when the wealthy and comfortable people would squash the people below and protect their own livelihood. But now, having the big picture, we see that the shadows were victims just as much as the real world they wreaked havoc on. So who's the real bad guy? When we look in the mirror, we'll see that if we choose to continue to ignore the hungry, the homeless, the disadvantaged, if we choose to pretend they don't exist, if we continue to label them as scary, unstable, foreign, if we try to kick them out, the real enemy, the real oppressor, the real villain is us. See ya.